what's interesting about it, what we want to focus on, we're going to focus on a couple things. It's already in, when you go into the temple proper, you're going to have the giant cherubim there. You're going to have, all the decorations of the garden and again, the wildlife and all this sort of stuff we talked about. This sort of brings some of that outside, and you've got a sea. It's called the Sea of Bronze. Now, Myers in her Anchor Bible Dictionary article says this, just to pull out a few excerpts here. It's really big. In fact, the amount of water in this is a lot more than you would ever need for washing. Okay, even if you were pig pen, I mean, it's huge. She says, just as spectacular as the size in the Sea of Bronze was its ornamentation. Under its rim was a series of cast decorations, 2 rows of gourds. The rim or the brim itself was made of lily work. Most amazing of all was the way it was supported on 4 sets of bronze oxen, with 3 oxen in each set. Each faced the direction of the compass. Keep that in mind, the compass, with their hinder parts facing inwards, supporting the basin. Albright, very famous biblical scholar, he died in 1971 or something like that. His parents were missionaries. I'm a big fan of Albright, even though he sort of gets poo-pooed now because he just believed too much of this stuff. Taught at Johns Hopkins for many years. I think he's a wonderful guy. But Albright sort of, went off on a tangent here, and he thought, well, what about the oxen here? And then you have the cherubim. So it made him think in one article he wrote, which I don't quote here, of Ezekiel's cherubim faces. You have 12 elements, 12 cardinal points, 12, with the compass points, the 4 compass points. It made him think of the vision in Ezekiel. And the reason he thought that was because, well, you have to know a little bit about the vision of Ezekiel. Okay, it was not a flying saucer. All right, so let's just get that out of the way. It's also not like an early Leonardo da Vinci plan for an actual flying object. What the 12 or what the cherubim were, this is stock description of a divine throne. I could show you lots of pictures of divine thrones. They are on oxen. The oxen will have wings. They'll have the different faces. Okay, this is what a royal throne looked like. It had wheels. You could move it around. It was portable. All that stuff. Fire. Again, the presence of God. Sinai. All these things sort of accumulate in Ezekiel. It's not a coincidence that in Ezekiel, the 4 faces of the cherubim correspond to the 4 cardinal points of the Babylonian zodiac. Ezekiel's living in Babylon. He's writing to people who are living in Babylon. All of this imagery you can find in Babylon, including the eyes. The eyes in ancient text were references to the stars. Okay, if you had animals with eyes in them, that was a constellation. This is astronomical language. The point of Ezekiel's vision is that Marduk of Babylon was viewed as the ruler of the cosmos. Marduk controls space and time, the passage of time, the epochs of human history. And you, Jews, are sitting here in Babylon by the river Kivar. Why? Because Marduk just kicked Yahweh around. Okay, that's Babylonian theology in Ezekiel's day. You're here because your God got beat by our God. And what Ezekiel is saying is he lays the whole thing out, the whole worldview out, that a Babylonian would understand. And who does he put on the throne? It ain't Marduk. Marduk isn't there. The whole point is that, yep, we're here in Babylon, but the God of Israel is still on the throne. That's the inaugural vision of the prophecy. And then he goes through and he explains, here's why you're here. Boy, you were bad, but you're not going to stay here either. Now you take all of that back. The astronomical imagery in the pointing to all 4 points of the compass telegraphs who is in control of the heavens. Why are the heavens important? Because the heavens are how you measure time. That's how you measure the passage of time. Sun, moon, stars. Who created those things? That would be the God of Israel. Who's in control of those things? If you're in control of those things, you're in control of history, because those things are linked with time. So if you were reading Ezekiel, the message is very theological. God is still on the throne. He has our destiny in his hand. It looks really bad, and it is, but he has our destiny in his hand. When you superimpose that to temple architecture, the message is, this is the center of the cosmos. This is the place from which God controls time and eternity and human history. There's a couple of other interesting things about it. Again, the Bronze Sea, if you just look at the gallons, it's 17,000 gallons. 27 feet. You've got the cubit measurement there, 4 feet high. Again, this wasn't in the tabernacle. Why? Because this is a picture. If you control the sea, if the sea is calm, if the sea is in the place where God is, time and eternity and history are well in hand. It's fixed. That's why it's not in the tabernacle, because the tabernacle was mobile. Not only couldn't you get all that water, but how would you move it? Okay, this is a fixed object. When they get in there, they build it. And it's not only that, but even this is a slap in the face to Babylon, Mesopotamian religion. Yeah, Myers continues, in the temple of Marduk, there was an artificial sea. Marduk is the chief god during the time of the exile. It was called the Ta'amtu, sounds suspiciously like Tiamat, the deep. Okay? Some Babylonian temples had an Apsu sea, a large basin, again, to commemorate this idea. It represented the waters of life at the holy center. Ancient Israel shared this notion of a watery chaos being kept under control by Yahweh. And again, the forces of chaos, the things that would destroy us. The great molten sea near the temple's entrance would have signified Yahweh's power and presence. Now, in Ezekiel 40, I want to go back. I want to pick up one. Now, let's do this. There's another object here. So this is, again, a symbol of God's control of the forces of chaos. And it's a counterpart to what the Mesopotamians have as well. Now, when it comes to this object, it actually gets called, this is a really kind of a strange thing. The altar hearth in Hebrew is Har El, 4 cubits from the altar hearth projecting upwards, so on and so forth. Har El is the Hebrew equivalent of a Sumerian term, Sumerian, Mesopotamia, Babylon, okay, they're all using the same languages there. The Aralu. This term in the same passage is to be connected with Akkadian Aralu, a term for the netherworld, about which the Chicago Assyrian Dictionary remarks that it was inter alia, a cosmic locality opposite of heaven. Although we should note, as does Albright, that the ancient Israelites may have understood this term as the mountain of God. That's literally what Har El means, the mountain of God. Cosmic mountain, sacred space. Where else would you expect that but in the temple? Okay, that's just a page from the Chicago Assyrian Dictionary making the point. The cosmic locality opposite of heaven. Let's think about that. Now, it's the netherworld in Mesopotamia, which is the realm of the dead. In Israel, how would you think about that? Think back to the whole world tree thing, the thing that connects heaven and earth and under the earth. It goes through the altar, which is where you sacrifice. Okay, there's a death metaphor going on there. There's a substitutionary metaphor going on there. You're going to wind up in the netherworld unless you're rightly related to the God of Israel. Okay, there's a salvation metaphor going there. So you have 2 objects in the temple that talk about God's control over the things that want to kill you. And this notion of, to avoid eternal death, we use this altar, again, to be a substitute for you. There's a lot of theology packed in just those 2 objects. And it's not just sort of operating on an earthly level. It has everything to do with, again, who's in control of life and death? Who's in control of life and death and our eternal destiny? Who's in control of all of history? Again, these are big, big thoughts. And they are tied to this place, Jerusalem, this temple, and even within the temple, some of these objects. This is the cosmic center of everything for an Israel.